The morning sky over New York turned black on a Tuesday, not from clouds or an eclipse, but from the massive ships that blocked out the sun. Commander James Stone stood on the roof of the United Nations building, his weathered face illuminated by the strange purple lights coming from the alien vessels above. "They're here," he said into his phone, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his chest. Around him, people screamed and ran. Car alarms blared in the streets below, and they don't look friendly. The aliens called themselves the Greys. They didn't bother with formal introductions or peace talks. Their first message was simple: submit or die. They believed humans were primitive creatures who had barely mastered basic technology. After all, humanity hadn't even colonized their own solar system yet. The Grey ships appeared over every major city on Earth at the same time. Their technology made Earth's best weapons look like toys. Their ships had force fields that could stop missiles. Their robots could walk through walls. Their weapons could turn tanks into puddles of metal. But the Greys made one big mistake. They thought humans would give up easily. Commander Stone gathered world leaders in an underground bunker. "They think we're weak," he told them, his fist hitting the metal table. "But they don't understand what humans do when backed into a corner." The first wave of alien attacks destroyed military bases across the globe. The world's armies tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't pierce the alien shields. Millions died in the first day. But humans are creative, especially when fighting for survival. Stone noticed something important during the attacks. The alien shields stopped everything that moved fast: bullets, missiles, rockets. But they didn't stop slower objects. He remembered his grandfather's stories about World War II, about how simple solutions sometimes worked better than complex ones. "We don't need to break their shields," Stone told his team. "We need to think differently." Humans started fighting back in ways the Greys never expected. They used mirror arrays to reflect sunlight into the alien ship sensors, blinding them. They discovered that simple water could short-circuit the alien robots. They used old radio frequencies to confuse alien communications. The Greys couldn't understand it. Their advanced AI predicted an easy victory. Their war computers showed humans had no chance. But their computers didn't account for human determination, creativity, and the will to survive. The turning point came when Stone led a desperate attack on the alien command ship over New York. Instead of using modern weapons, they used something the aliens never expected: hot air balloons filled with simple powder bombs. The alien shields, designed to stop high-speed projectiles, didn't activate against the slow-moving balloons. The powder got into the ship's engines and caused them to fail. For the first time in the invasion, a Grey ship fell from the sky. The news spread across the world. The aliens weren't invincible. They could be hurt. They could be beaten. Humanity's resistance grew stronger. People fought with whatever they had, using simple tools in clever ways. The Greys hadn't planned for a long fight. They expected quick surrender. Instead, they found themselves losing ships and soldiers every day to tricks and tactics their advanced minds hadn't considered. Their perfect invasion plan fell apart in the face of human unpredictability. After 3 months of fighting, the Greys retreated. But before leaving Earth's orbit, they fired their most powerful weapons, destroying several major cities in a final act of revenge. Millions more died, but humanity survived. As Commander Stone watched the alien ships disappear into space, he made a promise. "This isn't over," he said, looking at the ruins of New York. "They thought they could break us. Instead, they taught us. And one day, we'll find them. We'll show them what humanity is really capable of." The invasion changed everything. Humanity had survived, but they knew they weren't alone in the universe anymore. And they knew that somewhere out there, the Greys were probably planning their return. Earth had won this battle, but the war, it was just beginning. 20 years had passed since the Grey invasion. The ruins of old cities had been replaced by towers of gleaming steel and glass. But these weren't just any buildings. They were laboratories, research centers, and factories, all focused on one goal, reaching the stars. Admiral James Stone, his hair now white, but his eyes still sharp, stood in the massive underground facility called Phoenix Base. Next to him, Dr. Rose Miller worked at a control panel, her fingers moving quickly across the screens. In front of them, behind thick glass, sat their greatest achievement, a captured gray ship. "We've finally cracked it," Dr. Miller said, looking up from her work. "They're faster than light drive. We understand how it works now." She smiled, the kind of smile that showed years of hard work finally paying off. The world had changed after the invasion. Countries stopped fighting each other and joined together. Everyone remembered the day the skies turned black with alien ships. They knew the Greys might come back. And next time, Earth needed to be ready. Scientists from every nation worked together, studying the alien technology left behind. They found pieces of gray ships, broken robots, and damaged weapons. Each piece was like a puzzle, teaching them about advanced science. Dr. Miller led these efforts, turning alien mysteries into human innovations. "Show me," Admiral Stone said, walking closer to the glass. Dr. Miller pressed some buttons, and the gray ship's engine began to glow with a soft blue light. "The Greys used something called quantum folding," she explained. "They didn't just go fast. They folded space itself, making far places come closer. But humans didn't just copy the Grey technology. They improved it. Dr. Miller and her team found ways to make the engines more efficient. They discovered that human creativity could make alien technology work better than before." "How soon can we build our own ships?" Stone asked, watching the engine's blue glow. "The first one is already almost ready," Dr. Miller answered, leading him to another part of the base. They entered a massive chamber carved into the rock. There, floating in a cradle of steel beams, was humanity's first starship, the HFY Phoenix. It looked different from gray ships, where their ships were all curves and purple lights. The Phoenix was sleek and powerful, built for both speed and strength. "She's beautiful," Stone said, looking at the ship. "How many can we build?" "We have factories ready in every continent. Once we prove this works, we can build hundreds." The next month, they tested the Phoenix. The ship rose from its underground base, breaking through the clouds above the New Mexico desert. People watched from safe distances, holding their breath. This was humanity's big moment. Captain Mike Brown sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. "All systems ready," he reported. "Beginning FTL test." The ship's engines powered up. Blue lights surrounded the Phoenix. Then, in a flash of light, it vanished. 3 seconds later, it appeared near Mars. The test worked perfectly. News spread across Earth quickly. Humans had mastered faster than light travel. They could now reach other stars, other planets. They could find the Greys. Admiral Stone addressed the United Earth Council the next day. 20 years ago, the Greys came here thinking we were primitive," he said. "They thought they could break us. Instead, they'd made us stronger. Now we can travel between stars. Now we can defend ourselves. And now we can find them." The council voted unanimously. Earth would build its first space fleet. They would explore the galaxy, find other civilizations, and look for the Greys. But this time, humans wouldn't be the helpless ones. This time, they had the technology, the unity, and most importantly, the determination to show the galaxy what humanity could do. As the Phoenix flew its first official mission, carrying Earth's best pilots and scientists, Dr. Miller watched from the control room. "We're not just going to explore space," she said quietly. "We're going to change it." The age of human space exploration had begun, and somewhere out there, the Greys had no idea what was coming their way. The UEF Pathfinder dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a blue-green planet in the Centauri system. Captain Tom Walker stood on the bridge, watching the strange world through the main screen. His ship was humanity's first deep space explorer, built to find other civilizations, and the Greys. "Unknown ships approaching," said Jack, the radar operator. His voice was tense. Everyone remembered the stories of the Grey Invasion. 3 ships appeared on the screen. They were smaller than the Pathfinder, with elegant silver hulls that sparkled in the starlight. They weren't gray ships. Their design was completely different. "They're hailing us," said Mary, the communications officer. Captain Walker took a deep breath. This was humanity's second chance at first contact. "Open the channel," he ordered. The alien that appeared on the screen looked almost like a tall human, except for their silvery skin and large, gentle eyes. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in perfect English. "You have entered Meridian space." Walker was surprised they could speak English. Later, he learned their ships had universal translators. "I am Captain Tom Walker of the United Earth Fleet," he said. "We come in peace." The Meridian captain's eyes widened. Earth, the planet that fought off the Greys. Now it was Walker's turn to be surprised. "You know about that?" The Meridians invited the Pathfinder's crew to their space station. Inside, Walker learned why the aliens knew about Earth. The Greys had attacked many worlds, not just Earth. But Earth was the only planet that had ever beaten them. "The Greys rule most of known space," explained first speaker Dan of the Meridians. They used simple names when talking to humans, knowing their real names would be too hard to pronounce. They control the Galactic Council. They keep other species weak and dependent on them. Walker listened as Dan explained how the Greys worked. They would find developing civilizations and either conquer them or trick them into becoming dependent on Grey technology. The Meridians had fallen for their tricks centuries ago. "But you humans," Dan said, looking at Walker with respect, "you did something no one else has done. You beat them with your own technology. You made them run away. And now we're looking for them," Walker said. He told Dan about Earth's progress, about how humans had taken Grey technology and made it better. The Meridians were amazed. They had never thought about improving Grey technology. The Greys had made them believe that only they could understand advanced science. "We want to help," Dan said. "The Greys hurt our people too. But we've been too afraid to fight back. Until now." Walker contacted Earth with the news. Admiral Stone and the United Earth Council were excited. Humanity had found their first allies in space. Over the next few weeks, humans and Meridians shared knowledge. The Meridians knew about space travel, alien cultures, and the Galactic Council. Humans shared their improvements to Grey technology and their creative way of solving problems. "There's something special about humans," Dan told Walker one day. "You don't just use technology. You understand it, improve it. You're not afraid to try new things." But the Meridians also brought a warning. The Greys were powerful. They had thousands of ships and controlled hundreds of worlds. They wouldn't be easy to defeat. Walker smiled. "The Greys think power comes from advanced technology," he said. "But Earth proved something different. Real power comes from determination, creativity, and working together. And now, we're not alone." As the Pathfinder prepared to return to Earth, Walker looked at the Meridian station. Humanity had found friends in space, but they'd also found a bigger challenge than they expected. The Greys didn't just control a few planets. They controlled most of the galaxy. But that didn't scare Walker or his crew. If anything, it made them more determined. Earth hadn't just survived the Grey invasion. They had started a revolution without knowing it. And now, that revolution was about to spread across the stars. 6 months after meeting the Meridians, Earth's main space dock was busier than ever. Ships from 5 different alien species moved around the massive structure. Each one had their own story about the Greys, and each one wanted to join Earth's growing coalition. Admiral Stone watched from his office window as a blue-skinned Aquarian ship landed smoothly on one of the docks. "How many ships do we have now?" he asked Dr. Miller, who stood beside him checking her tablet. 327, she answered. "And more coming every week. The Aquarians just brought 20 more." She paused, looking at the new data. "But that's not the best part. Wait until you see what we learned from combining their water-based technology with our improvements to the Gray systems. Down in Testing Bay 12, a group of human and alien engineers watched as Dr. Miller demonstrated their latest invention. She pointed a small device at a chunk of gray armor, the same kind that had once seemed unbeatable. She pressed a button, and the armor began to crack and fall apart. The Greys never thought anyone would combine technologies from different species, she explained to the amazed audience. They kept everyone separate for a reason. But by working together, we'd found their weaknesses. Meanwhile, in the strategy room, Captain Walker met with representatives from their alien allies. Maps of Gray-controlled space filled the screens around them. The Greys have spies everywhere, said Rod, the warrior chief of the rock-skinned mountain people. They probably know we're gathering here. Let them know, Walker replied with a confident smile. They still won't see what's coming. He was right. The Greys had spies, but those spies reported exactly what the Greys expected to see. Primitive species clumsily trying to copy Gray technology. The spies couldn't understand the true power of what was happening on Earth. The Coalition wasn't just building ships and weapons. They were creating something the galaxy had never seen before. True cooperation between species. Humans taught their allies to think creatively, to question everything, to find new solutions. In return, each species shared their unique knowledge and abilities. The Aquarians taught them about space currents and hidden ways to travel between stars. The mountain people showed them how to build ships that could survive almost anything. The Meridians shared their knowledge of Gray patrol routes and defense systems. Even the tiny worker species, which the Greys had used as slaves, brought valuable information about Gray technology they had secretly gathered over centuries. But Dr. Miller's breakthroughs were the key to everything. She found ways to combine the special abilities of each species into new technologies the Greys couldn't predict. The Greys think they're superior because they have the most advanced single technology, she told Admiral Stone. But we have something better: diversity. The Coalition built their fleet in hidden shipyards throughout space. They trained together, learned from each other, and grew stronger every day. The Gray spies saw some of this, but didn't understand what it meant. To them, different species working together was impossible. Their pride made them blind. One day, as Admiral Stone watched another group of alien ships arrive at Earth, he got an urgent message. Their spies in Gray space reported that the Greys were laughing at the Coalition. They thought all these different species working together would lead to chaos and failure. Stone smiled as he read the report. Perfect, he said. They still don't understand. They think technology is power. But real power comes from unity, from different minds working together to solve problems. He looked out at the busy space dock again. Humans and aliens worked side by side, preparing for the fight ahead. The Greys had ruled through fear and division for thousands of years. But they had never faced anything like this. A united force of different species, each bringing their own strengths, all working together. The storm was gathering. And when it broke, the Greys wouldn't know what hit them. The Gray military base on planet X-227 was supposed to be a secret, hidden inside a dead moon. Protected by powerful shields, it had helped the Greys control this sector of space for centuries. But now, 50 Coalition ships waited in the darkness nearby, their engines cold and silent. Captain Walker stood on the bridge of the lead ship, named Freedom. Around him, his crew, both human and alien, worked quietly at their stations. They had trained for this moment for months. "All ships report ready," said Mary, now his second in command. "The Aquarians are in position near the South Pole. The mountain people's ships are hidden in the asteroid field." Walker nodded. "Send the signal." A small maintenance ship approached the Gray base. It looked like one of their slave species repair vessels, the kind the Greys saw every day and never thought about. But inside were some of Dr. Miller's best engineers, along with their newest invention. The Gray guards let the ship land. Why wouldn't they? Their scans showed it was just another worker vessel bringing supplies. That was their first mistake. As soon as the ship landed, the engineers released thousands of tiny robots, each one smaller than a fly. The robots, designed by humans and built with worker technology, crawled into the base's computer systems. Phase 1 complete, Walker said into his comm unit. "Dr. Miller, you're up." In her lab back on Earth, Dr. Miller pressed a button. The tiny robots activated, sending confusion through the gray base's systems. Alarms started going off everywhere and nowhere. Shield power shifted randomly. Computer screens showed false information. The Greys had never seen anything like this. Their mighty technology, which they were so proud of, was being turned against them by creatures they couldn't even see. "Now," Walker ordered. The Coalition fleet appeared from hiding, but they didn't attack the way the Greys expected. The Aquarian ships dove into the moon's frozen oceans, using their water-bending technology to create massive waves under the ice. The Mountain People's ships fired special crystals that grew inside the moon's crust, cracking it from within. The Grey commanders tried to respond, but their computers showed thousands of false threats. They couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't. Their perfect order turned to chaos. When the base's shields finally fell, they weren't destroyed by weapons. Instead, the Coalition ships released clouds of specially designed gas, harmless to most species but able to put Greys to sleep. Within minutes, the mighty Grey base fell silent. "All teams, move in," Walker ordered. Coalition forces, humans, Meridians, Mountain People, workers, and Aquarians, entered the base together. Each species had its role, using their unique abilities to handle different challenges. The sleeping Greys were carefully taken into custody. But the real prize was the base's computers. The Coalition now had access to Grey military secrets, patrol routes, and defense plans. More importantly, they had proof of something bigger. "Sir," Mary called out, looking at a computer screen. "You need to see this. The Greys, they've been lying to everyone. They're not as advanced as they pretend to be. Most of their technology, they stole it from other species they destroyed long ago." Walker immediately sent the information to Earth. Admiral Stone and the Coalition leaders would know what to do with it. As Coalition ships secured the base, Walker looked at his crew, humans and aliens working perfectly together. The Greys had kept species apart because they feared what would happen if they united. Now they were about to find out why. News of the battle spread quickly through Grey space. For the first time in thousands of years, someone had not just challenged the Greys. They had beaten them. The mighty Grey fleet had been defeated not by superior technology, but by creativity, teamwork, and the one thing the Greys never expected: different species working together. The galaxy was changing, and it was only the beginning. Dr. Rose Miller stared at her screen in the main lab of Earth's Space Center, her eyes wide with disbelief. Around her, human and alien scientists crowded together, all looking at the same data they'd recovered from the Grey base. "They lied," she whispered. "They lied about everything." The files showed the truth about the Greys' empire. They weren't the superior species they claimed to be. Instead, they were thieves who had stolen technology from hundreds of civilizations over thousands of years. Admiral Stone called an emergency meeting of the Coalition Council. Representatives from 20 different species gathered in Earth's Grand Meeting Hall. The room buzzed with tension as Dr. Miller stepped up to speak. "The Greys didn't invent faster-than-light travel," she said, her voice echoing through the hall. "They stole it from the ancient runners, a species they destroyed 10,000 years ago. Their shield technology, taken from the crystal mines, who they tricked into extinction. Even their universal translators were stolen from the Whisper People." The room erupted in angry shouts. Many species had believed the Greys were superior beings who deserved to rule. Now they learned the truth. The Greys had built their empire on lies and theft. "There's more," Miller continued when the room quieted. "They've been deliberately keeping other species from advancing. Their help with technology. It's designed to make us dependent on them. They give us machines we can use but can't understand or improve. Captain Walker, who had led the attack on the Gray base, stood up. But they didn't count on humans, he said. When they attacked Earth, they didn't give us their technology. We took it. We studied it. We improved it. We did what they thought was impossible. The coalition members began sharing stories. The mountain people remembered ancient tales of cities in the stars. The Aquarians had legends of machines that could talk to sea creatures. The workers spoke of tools their ancestors once built that were far advanced than what the Greys let them use now. The Greys didn't make us primitive, Walker said. They kept us primitive. But that stops now. Dr. Miller showed her next discovery. The Greys have a central database on their homeworld. It contains all the technology they've stolen. The original versions, not the weakened copies they give to others. If we can reach it, we can give every species back their heritage. The council voted immediately. They would broadcast the truth across all communication channels. Every species in the galaxy would learn how the Greys had tricked them. Within days, the news spread everywhere. The Greys tried to deny it, but Dr. Miller had found proof in their own files. Videos, documents, and technical plans showed how they had stolen and hidden technology for thousands of years. The effect was massive. Planets that had been loyal to the Greys for centuries now questioned everything. Species that had believed themselves inferior now realized they had been tricked. The Grey Empire began to crack. In the Galactic Council, Grey representatives faced angry questions from other species. Many of their closest allies turned against them. Some Grey commanders, learning the truth about their own history, began to doubt their leaders. The Greys thought their biggest mistake was attacking Earth. Admiral Stone told the Coalition Council. But they were wrong. Their biggest mistake was believing that keeping species apart made them weak. Instead, it just made us learn to think differently, to solve problems in our own ways. And now, together, we're stronger than they ever were. As the truth continued to spread, more species joined the coalition. Ships that once served the Greys now turned against them. The Grey Empire, built on thousands of years of lies, began to fall apart. The galaxy was waking up, and the Greys were about to learn that the truth was more powerful than any weapon they had stolen. The Grey homeworld hung in space like a dark jewel, surrounded by their most powerful warships. This was their last stronghold, where they kept all their stolen secrets. The coalition fleet faced them. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species, all united under one banner. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, his old eyes fixed on the enemy ahead. He'd waited 25 years for this moment, ever since that day the Greys first darkened Earth's skies. All ships report ready, Captain Walker said from his position nearby. The Meridians, the mountain people, the Aquarians, the workers, everyone's in position. Dr. Miller's voice came through the comm system from her science vessel. Remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to free everyone, including the Greys themselves. The Grey High Commander's face appeared on their screens. You primitive species dare to challenge us here. We built this galaxy. We ruled it for 10,000 years. No, Stone replied calmly. You stole from the galaxy. You lied to it. But that ends today. The battle began. The Greys had their most advanced ships, their strongest weapons, their best warriors. But the Coalition had something stronger, unity. Aquarian ships dove through space like water, drawing Grey fire away from the main fleet. Mountain people vessels took hits that would have destroyed any other ships, protecting their allies. Worker ships, small but incredibly agile, slipped through Grey defenses to plant Dr. Miller's special devices. The Greys couldn't understand what they were seeing. Their computers showed them winning. Their superior technology should have defeated these primitives easily. But everywhere they looked, different species worked together in ways their computers couldn't predict. Human ships led the charge, using tactics that seemed crazy but worked perfectly. They'd learned from every species in the coalition, combining different fighting styles in ways the Greys had never seen. Then Dr. Miller activated her devices. Across the Grey fleet, ships started shutting down. Their stolen technology was being turned off by the very species who had originally created it. "Your weapons won't work anymore," Miller broadcast to the Grey fleet. The Ancient Runner's engines, the Crystal Mind shields, the Whisper People's computers, they're all returning to their true owners. The Grey ships hung powerless in space. On their homeworld, cities went dark as ancient stolen technologies stopped working. The mighty Grey Empire, built on theft and lies, finally fell. But humanity didn't want revenge. As Grey ships surrendered one by one, coalition forces moved in to help, not harm. They offered food, medical aid, and shelter to confused Grey citizens who had never known the truth about their leaders. In the Grey capital city, Admiral Stone met with the Grey High Council. He wasn't there to punish them, but to offer a choice. "You can join us," he said. "Not as rulers, but as equals. You'll have to work hard to earn trust back. But humans know something about starting over, about learning from mistakes and becoming better." The Greys, seeing their empire of lies destroyed but being offered mercy instead of vengeance, made their choice. They surrendered completely and agreed to return all stolen technology to its rightful owners. 1 month later, representatives from every species gathered on Earth to form the new Galactic Alliance. Humans were chosen to lead it, not because they were strongest or most advanced, but because they had proven they could unite different species and help them work together. Admiral Stone watched the celebration from his office window. The night sky was filled with ships from across the galaxy, their lights making new constellations above Earth. "We did it," Dr. Miller said, standing beside him. "We changed the galaxy." "No," Stone smiled. "We freed it. And now the real work begins, building something better together." In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't defeating the Greys. It was showing the galaxy a better way, one where different species worked together, where strength came from unity, and where even ancient enemies could become friends. The galaxy had shuddered when humans came to settle the score, but it rose stronger, freer, and more united than ever before.